with 0 down and $299 a month. See the Midwest's #1 volume Subaru dealer today. Luther White Bear Subaru.
Come and get your love, come and get your love now.
We'll give you that kayaker story on Monday. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again soon.
You're watching Fox 9 All Day.
All right, welcome to All Day Live. I'm Ryan Ravlin, in for Amy Hockert, who's on vacation this week. Yes, we let her have a vacation. So, going to be running things from the control room today. I got my friend Leo right next to me for a while here, and so we're going to give you a good show. We got some good stuff to talk about today. Lauren Andrego, we talked about the Twins season opener yesterday. Lauren Andrego is at the St. Paul Saints home opener, which is happening tonight. We're hoping that the weather kind of looks more like it does right now than what it's going to be. We're going to get into that in a little bit. We're also going to talk a little art forgery. You might remember a story about a painting sold at a Minnetonka garage sale that they might have thought would have been actually painted by Vincent van Gogh himself. Little update on that story, and then we're going to take a deeper dive into the art forgery world. I think you're going to like it. We're also going to talk to Chris Hine, who's a beat writer for the Timberwolves for Star Tribune. He's writing a book on Anthony Edwards that comes out later this summer, so we're going to spend some time with him. But first, we have to talk about the weather, right? Because here we are again. It's another Friday where we're approaching 70 degrees today. We're in the 60s right now, just hit 60. But things are going to change big time by Saturday. So meteorologist Cody Matz is going to walk us all through it. Cody?
Warmth across central and southern Minnesota, cold to the north, and then we all cool off over the course of the weekend. It's going to be kind of a wild ride over the next 36 to 48 to 72 hours, really taking us through the weekend. Meteorologist Cody Matz will look at that forecast. Some cloud cover arriving in the Twin Cities off and on, and we'll see that in parts of central Minnesota. One of the reasons why central Minnesota temperatures will be quite a bit cooler than southern Minnesota, and then northern Minnesota quite a bit cooler than that, as a huge spread in temperatures on Friday over the course of the state. So warm air nosing into parts of southern and central Minnesota. South of that warm front, southwestern Minnesota, where there is a burn ban and a red flag warning. Low humidity and temperatures in the mid to borderline upper 80s. Contrast that with upper 20s and low 30s in northeastern Minnesota. So just a wild ride through the day Friday. Now this area, low pressure will continue eastward. That's giving some precipitation to mostly northern Minnesota with a wintry mix and some travel concerns for the northern quarter of the state with that winter weather advisory in place. The metro and the rest of the state is waiting on this low to push in as we get into Saturday, especially the second half of Saturday, first half of Sunday for a rain and snow combination. Walking through Futurecast. So there's the wintry mix across northern Minnesota with a coating of freezing rain and icy conditions and a couple of inches of snow, especially the farther north you go. For everyone else, it's in and out of some cloud cover and much warmer temperatures. Like I mentioned, 80s in southern Minnesota, 60s, 70s, close to 80 depending on where you are in the Twin Cities metro, and then chillier the farther north you go. All that kicks eastward. Eventually we see temperatures plummet behind our cold front that will sag southward pretty quickly Friday evening. Could pop a couple of stray storms in southeastern Minnesota. Those actually running a level 1 risk of severe weather if they get going. Now that will kick east real fast, and then we're actually quiet overnight Friday night. Honestly, we're quiet. We're probably dry through Saturday morning and maybe even through the lunch hour. Once we get past that, though, the moisture starts to arrive With that second area of low pressure, we'll see the rain kind of sputter to a start by mid to late afternoon for a lot of central and southern Minnesota, and then it will start to become a whole lot heavier. That will help cool off the atmosphere Saturday evening, Saturday night. Obviously, the sun going down will help that as well, and so parts of this will start its transition over to a rain-snow mix or just committing to some snow in some cases. While the metro will mostly dance with rain, there is an opportunity, especially in the overnight hours, to maybe get some slushy, very minor coatings and minor accumulations. And I don't want to talk very specific totals, but possible for a couple plus inches. With a little band, notice how it's across mostly central Minnesota. That's where the best chances sit for 2s and 3s, maybe a little more than that. We'll get a little more specific as it gets closer. Like I mentioned, while the metro may see some off and on flakes and may even commit to some snow showers and legit snow at times, the fact that I've got a wet ground, now a warm ground, it's going to be tough to get anything more than real minor stuff, especially on anything man-made. So grassy surface accumulations may be there, but getting stuff to accumulate on roads and in your back deck and your driveway will be a little bit more complicated. For your Friday, though, it is generally all about the warmth, especially in central and southern Minnesota, but look at the contrast in temperatures. Upper 20s, northeastern Minnesota, rain, snow mix, and a freezing rain combo. 50s from Cambridge to St. Cloud. Low to mid 70s for the heart of the metro, and then low to mid 80s in southwestern Minnesota. We zoom in on the metro, though, it does get a little more complicated, and you can't just say 74 because the metro is going to be a wide range of temperatures. We could be low to mid 60s with a bit more cloud cover in the far north metro from St. Michael to Ramsey, Forest Lake, and Somerset, Wisconsin. You get to the heart of the metro, yeah, low, maybe mid 70s. But you get to the south side, parts of Scott and Dakota County, Prior Lake to Lakeville, southward to Elko, Newmarket, Northfield, some low 80s potentially. So there is a wide range in temperature across the greater Twin Cities metro, and then northerly flow kicks in. Temperatures plummet very quickly after sunset Friday into Friday night. Overnight lows will be back in the 30s, and we just won't rise much as we get into the day on Saturday. Obviously, with that northeast breeze, we'll add some wind. The first half does actually look dry, and then we'll sputter the rain to a start and then become heavy at times towards sunset, and that will help the transition to at least a rain-snow mix as we get into Saturday evening, Saturday night. So accumulations look best in terms of snowfall north and west of the Twin Cities metro, but some minor coatings possible. That's done by around lunchtime Sunday, give or take. We'll kick out the precipitation, but cloud cover will linger Sunday afternoon. And it will be chilly. High temperatures in the upper 30s. That's it. So about 10 degrees below average. We'll rebound on Monday a little bit. The sunshine will help at 41. And then a new system rolls in as we head into April, Tuesday and Wednesday with more rain showers, maybe even some mixy showers Wednesday morning. The good news here is the Twins home opener does look dry, but it will be cool with highs in those middle 40s.
Thank you, Cody. If I knew he was talking about snow, I just would have skipped the whole weather segment. We don't want that on our radar, right? We did, 70s today. That's what we're talking about. Okay, since I'm in charge of the show today, we're talking baseball, and we're going to go out to CHS Field. My friend Lauren Andrago is out there. Opening day is tonight, and hopefully some of that 70s and 60s stick around, but no matter what, it's going to be a great night for baseball, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. Happy opening day for AAA baseball. This is so much fun being here at CHS Field before the crowd arrives. I'm on the upper deck right now. There's seats around here, and there's a couple dozen crews around here preparing the field. I saw them chalking the lines. I saw a coach running around the warning track. They're cleaning every single seat. They're putting up tents, getting the beer garden ready. And they're warming up for what's going to be a really great season for baseball. We're 6 hours away from first pitch. The doors open at 5 o'clock tonight. The weather is going to be spectacular then, which is really good because if you've gone to the home opener for the Saints the last couple of years, you know it's kind of been a washout. These are seats that anyone can get, but I want to take you into the clubhouse. This is a spot where season ticket holders can come sit. I've never been up here before, and I am, as you know, Ryan, a lower town girl, and I love the Saints. But look at this room. Businesses rent this out. We've got season ticket holders that come in here. There's catered food. I know, isn't it beautiful?
That's nice.
Also, Sean from the Saints is here with me. Sean, thank you so much for your time today. You're the voice of the Saints. If anyone's been to a Saints game before, they've heard your voice. What are your feelings like on opening day? It probably has to feel like Christmas to you.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, look, everybody knows Minnesota's winters are long, they're cold. cold, they're dark. So once we can get out of that and play some baseball, for me, this is my 25th year as a broadcaster in minor leagues, 19 with the Saints. So I can't wait for opening day every year.
I love it. I have so many things to ask you about, but we have to first address the elephant in the room. And by the elephant, I mean the elephant-sized hot dog. Ryan, I just took a picture and texted you this because I could not believe my own eyes. Look at this thing. We've been talking about it for a couple of days. It's called the Land of 10,000 Calories. It is a hot dog, believe it or not. We actually have a regular hot dog right over there just for scale, just to show you how gigantic this thing is. Sean, I know you're not the chef here, but everyone's been talking about this thing. What can you tell me about the Land of 10,000 Calories?
Yeah, first of all, I'm not ashamed to admit this. I stand 5'5", so this thing is larger than I am.
Yes, Sean for scale.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what you got. So you got 6 feet of hot dog with pulled pork, mac and cheese, bacon, jalapenos, barbecue sauce, and chipotle mayo on there as well.
Oh my gosh.
Along with 6 feet of French fries on one side and 6 feet of jalapeno poppers on the other. And we'll also throw in 4 drinks if you order this as well.
4 drinks, because obviously this is not meant to be eaten by one person. How many people could this thing feed? Probably 20.
We've estimated about 15 to 20 people. See, people think like 6 feet, not bad, but if it was just a hot dog, sure, you'd be like, all right, yeah, maybe 5, 10 people. But there's so much on this that you're looking at about 15 to 20 people.
Oh my goodness.
And I asked today, by the way, because we were talking about this earlier, like it's called the Land of 10,000 Calories, but it's similar to the Land of 10,000 Lakes. Like there's not really 10,000 lakes, there's more.
Yeah.
It's more than 10,000 calories, and probably by about 50% more than that.
I was going to say, in a way that we can't quite quantify, similar to our Land of 10,000 Lakes. This is fascinating. This is one of many really awesome food options that you have here. I feel like CHS Field really thinks outside the box in terms of stadium food, and you guys also do that in terms of entertainment. For someone who has never been to a Saints game before, can you just tell me a little bit about the atmosphere here?
Yeah, bottom line is fun, right? That's what we're about. That's what we've been about since 1993. We want to be about that. We want to give you an entertaining product on the field and an entertaining product between innings and an entertaining product within the stands. And that's really what we aim to do. We try to push the envelope. We try to be a little edgy at times. And we spend an entire offseason trying to come up with different ideas to get that across over 75 games. We treat every day, like we talked about today as opening day, but we treat every day like opening day because you never know who's coming out for their first game.
That's so true. You're right. And it's so much fun to see the whole youth baseball teams who come out here and all the families who come out and get the Lower Town experience. You've been here for quite a long time. Did you say 19 seasons here with the Saints?
Yeah, this is my 19th season. So I've been around since the old ballpark over at Midway Stadium. Welcome in this one, have seen a change from independent ball to the Twins AAA affiliate. So I've been around a while, have seen a lot, and again, it's all about making memories here for everybody, not just myself, but for everybody else that comes out here.
Something else that's really cool about coming to a Saints game is you never know, you might see a Twins player over here.
You'll see plenty of Twins players over here. I mean, look, the great thing now, we've been the Twins AAA affiliate since 2021, is you're going to see the up-and-coming prospects here. You're going to see guys that maybe were on the bubble during spring training that just missed out on making the team. Our starter tonight, David Festa, pitched plenty for the Twins last year. Our starter on Sunday, Zebby Matthews, pitched plenty for the Twins last year. And then you're going to get guys that, unfortunately, it happens, guys that get injured that will be down here on Major League Rehab. We've had in the past Byron Buxton here, Royce Lewis here. Royce, who's hurt right now, so when he's ready to go, he'll play some rehab games here. So again, not uncommon to see that, and it's a great mix of baseball and entertainment.
It really is, and every game really is a different experience. Let's talk about tonight, opening night. You guys are giving away these cool shirts that you're wearing.
Yeah, so this is my modeling debut right here. So this is it. It begins and ends today, by the way. This is it, all right? But yeah, this is kind of a pullover jacket type thing that we wanted to give to our fans, first 1,000 people that are in attendance. We'll get this today. If you miss today, we're doing another one tomorrow. Different color. So kind of a darker blue type of look with the white. If you come today and get one today and want to be greedy and come tomorrow, we'll let you do that too.
Two windbreakers
Yeah.
one weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So so we're giving these away. We always try to do something special on opening weekend, knowing it's going to be a little bit colder out here. Next year, I am vying for the shorts and cutoff T-shirt giveaway to try and be very Saints-like, where it's not what you would expect on a colder day. I think it's got a little bit of humor on it.
Here in Minnesota, we will wear shorts any day of the year if we have the opportunity to. Real quick, any other big events coming up through the season that you're excited about?
Yeah, so a lot of minor league baseball has gotten into changing their name for a day, an alter ego type of thing, and so we decided let's get into that. And we know the history of St. Paul pretty well, and so we're coming up with the Crookshaven Ghostly Gangsters to kind of dive into the Prohibition area when gangsters came here.
Sure.
There's a lot of seedy things that went along, and a lot of stories that are still left to be uncovered. So we're changing our identity for a day, and we'll become the Crookshaven Ghostly Gangsters. We'll wear different uniforms, and we're going to have a lot of the staff are going to dress up. We actually did an unveiling party at the Wabasha Caves, which was fantastic. And we all wore kind of 1920s outfits, and so we're going to do that as well out here. Just kind of turn it into a 1920s party out here.
Oh, that's fun. Bring your own fedora.
Yeah, exactly.
Sean, thank you so much. Can we check back in with you in an hour or so?
I am chained to the ballpark.
That's right, you are. It's officially work season for you. Sean, thank you so much for your time. All right, Ryan, we are a little over 6 hours away from first pitch.
Yes.
I'm going to go right back out here so you can see. We had a couple players out here on the field a second ago, but I'm going to hang out here all afternoon and check back in with you in a bit. I think we'll get down on the field at 1 o'clock.
Lauren, the one thing I can't help but notice, you didn't try that hot dog. Is that coming up in the second hour of the show, or is that what's going on there? Sure.
Without revealing too much, I do want to say that hot dog has been there for a while, a couple of hours.
So
they graciously put it together for us.
Come out to
You'll
the
get a
ballpark
fresh one
tonight
if you
and
buy
get a
it
fresh
here at the
one.
game.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Lauren, we'll check in with you a little bit later today. All right, well, hey, there we go, the first block, just like that. Hey, do you know by any chance what the Sandlot Marathon is? You probably have heard of the movie, but you might not know what the Sandlot Marathon is. Well, it's happening this weekend, and coming up, Amy Hockert's going to speak with the founder of the Sandlot Marathon. That's coming up next. You're watching All Day Live on a Friday, March 28th.
You're watching Fox 9 all day.
Welcome back to All Day Live. I'm Ryan Rablin. Let's keep the baseball theme rolling, right? Imagine running a marathon, but on a baseball diamond, right? Well, if you did that, you would have to go around the bases 384 times and a half to complete the 26.2 miles. That is going on tomorrow in Elk River, and Amy Hockert sat down. We're bringing her back from vacation to sit down with the founder of this race. And if you're a baseball fan, this could be for you.
All right, joining me now is Joe Lang, avid runner and founder, I guess. Is that fair to say? One of the founders of something called the Sandlot Marathon. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, you got to tell me, what is the Sandlot Marathon?
The Sandlot Marathon was an idea that some friends and I came up with a long time ago, and it was running a marathon on a baseball official baseline. So you've got 90 feet in between each base, and it's 384 and a half loops of running the baseline in order to complete a marathon.
Okay, but it's a full-on marathon. We're not okay. Do you get dizzy running that?
We get asked that a lot, and you really don't. It's hard to get dizzy because you're not really focusing on what's in front of you. It's so tight knit, and there's so many people there that you're kind of lost in conversation the whole time. You don't realize what you're doing half the time.
Okay, and so do you know how many runners you got this year for this marathon?
I think we're at 40 this year.
Is that a lot for you guys?
It's about average for the marathon. We're about average. Half marathon's a little lower this year than it has been in years past. We did a 5K one year, and that really boosted numbers, but that was kind of a lot of work. So
40 people. I'm just trying to picture, how do you do this? Because I'm picturing 40 people trying to run the bases. Do you all start at the same time? How does that work?
We start at the same time. We run multiple fields. So we usually run at least 2 fields, so that way it doesn't get too crowded.
Okay. And I would guess you encourage people to come and support and cheer and, their drop spots. Like, how does this thing work?
Yeah, people can come out and support and cheer. There's people in the bleachers usually. We had a guy out there the first year acting like a catcher or an umpire rather, calling safe and out as people were coming through. It's a lot of fun, and we have a fun little part of it where at a certain time during the race, everybody has to stop their race, come to the pavilion in the center, and then we do what we call the 7th inning stretch, where we all sing baseball songs, we eat hot dogs, guys have beers or Cokes or whatever, and then we go back out and finish the race.
This is so great. And so, I don't know a ton about this world. But as you and I talked about, my husband runs these things, and this is the first time he kind of talked to me about this and was like, this is one of the coolest things ever. But are there other races like this that are just like off the wall? Because the people are like, I'd love to run a marathon, but it sounds super boring.
There's one guy right now I've been seeing on social media that keeps going out to like Burger Kings and McDonald's and runs laps around them until he hits a marathon. But there are other official races. There's beer miles all over that you can do all over the country. We've put on a couple fun races like that, usually unofficial races like the Fall Claw Crawl or Beat Your Rank, which are just goofy little quirky little races.
And do people need a lot of experience to do one of these, do you think, or is it just kind of for fun?
Not at all. It's just for fun. It's a blast. Nobody comes out there to get a PR or go super fast. It's more about just going out and seeing all your friends or meeting new friends and just having fun.
Okay, so it's not a qualifier for the Boston Marathon. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, I don't know if they'd allow it to.
Okay, sounds good. And I got to ask you about obviously the name, Sandlot Marathon. What are some of the connections that you have to the movie, if anything?
We don't really do a lot with the connections to the movie. It's just everybody thinks of Sandlot as a fun movie, and it's a baseball movie, and obviously this is a baseball theme. We do have a couple other little things. You get to sign a jersey after you finish, and the jersey is actually a Harold Baines jersey. And if people don't know anything about Harold Baines and his MLB career, go look him up, and it's pretty fun.
And then a winner, what does a winner walk away with?
Winner usually walks away with a Harold Baines card. And then usually we'll come up with some kind of little goofy trophy or something to give them too, but there's no prize money or anything like that. Every participant gets a custom made baseball card with their picture on it. We've done mini bats, we've done little baseballs, we always do the t-shirts, and we have other stuff for sale out there for people as well.
Okay, so you've obviously run, other marathons. There's this one. What is it about this one that is, I guess, special to you? And like, what are you thinking about as you're running 384 and a half laps around?
My favorite thing about this race is you're never more than 90 feet away from the guy that's in first place and the person that's in last place. So you get to talk to everybody. And it's a lot of fun because as the day goes on, you might get away from one person or another person, but later on you eventually get next to them again and you're having another conversation or picking up right where you left off. I think, like you said, Paul was the connection for us. Paul and I ran the whole thing together last year and just talked the whole time, and it's just a lot of fun.
So you know everything there is to know about Paul, and he knows, and then you guys kind of go your separate ways, and it's just a unique experience, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's
the one other thing I should hit on is everybody gets to pick a walk-up song. So in baseball, you have your walk-up song, and so that is played on a loop the entire day while you're out there over big speakers. So there's good music going the whole time too. So
what's your walk-up song?
This year, I think I picked Tom Green's Salmon Song from the movie Road Trip.
Of course you did. That's what this is all about. It's fantastic. Okay, this year we're getting kind of close to the race. It's probably a little maybe late for people to sign on, but this is something you do every time of this year. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Every time it's varied from St. Patty's Day weekend to later in March, but it's usually around this time of year. Yep.
Okay. And where can people go if they just want to kind of show up and cheer and support the runners?
It's at the Dave Anderson Complex in Elk River, but if they can't find it if I'm getting it wrong, look up Sandlot Marathon on Facebook and all the information's on there.
And what time does it get started? On this Saturday? Yeah.
Look, it's 8:00 Saturday, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Okay. But you could show up anytime, right? And they'll still be
Yep.
running.
Honestly, the best time to show up is the 7th inning stretch, and I believe that's usually always at 11.
Okay, nice. Joe, thank you so much for talking to us about this and just sharing like this joy of running and this community. It's such a great community, and races like this just really make you smile.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. All right, take care, Joe, and good luck.
Thank you.
I love that. I mean, not the running, but everything else about it I love. I might show up for the 7th inning stretch. Anyways, from baseball to fine art, you might remember this story about a painting sold at a Minnetonka garage sale and whether it was actually a Van Gogh. We've got an update to that story. Plus, we spoke to someone who knows a thing or two about forged art. Amy Hockart caught up with him 5 years ago, and then we brought him back to talk about this painting. So that's all coming up next. You're watching
You're watching Fox 9 all day.
This is a collection of portraiture done by Elmyr, and it's really a peek inside his secret world.
At a small, unassuming museum in St. Peter, you'll find some of the best-kept secrets of the art world.
And so in this museum, we're seeing the real Elmyr.
Exactly. There's no pretense here.
The exhibition offers a rare look at original pieces by Elmyr de Hory, a man who made a name for himself in the 50s and 60s as a con artist, knocking off the likes of Picasso and Renoir.
He wanted to shed the odium of being only known as an art forger, that he wanted to do work in his own style.
Mark Forgy is the beneficiary of all of Elmyr's work, authentic and forged. He curated this ode to the real Elmyr because he's one of the few people who can.
You really have two competing narratives here, and I want to shed some light on the person that I knew most intimately.
When Mark was 18, he graduated from Hopkins High School and he left for Europe. He landed in Ibiza, Spain, and immediately met Elmyr.
I tried to make myself useful to Elmyr, and Elmyr quickly said, I'm looking for somebody to be an assistant to help around the house.
A few weeks later, Mark found out who he was working for.
And I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm living with an art forger. I said, how cool is that?
That art forger took the young, impressionable kid from Minnesota under his wing.
He just tried to be my guide and mentor, teach me about art and so many things.
Among them, how to hobnob with high society. Years had passed since Elmyr's scams had been exposed, so now he was being celebrated as a bad boy media darling.
Brigitte Bardot, Ursula Andress, but Orson Welles was certainly one of the foremost giants that I met through Elmyr.
And then in 1976, after an 8-year adventure and friendship, 70-year-old Elmyr de Hory died by suicide and left everything to Mark.
And it was characterized by a complete disregard for color conventions, so you could...
These days, Mark lives back in Minnesota in what he jokingly refers to as a temple to Elmyr.
He always insisted that he wasn't a copyist because a lot of people misinterpret what he did, thinking he copied originals. He never did that. What he would do is work in the manner of these artists.
To this day, no one knows how many of Elmyr's fakes are still in circulation. No one wants to admit they were duped. And incredibly, Elmyr was never charged with a crime.
Because according to the French police, they would have had to produce 3 witnesses who saw him creating the fake works, signing them, and then selling them as such. They couldn't put together a case.
And in a strange twist of fate, Elmyr is the one who's now getting knocked off. For years, Mark has been trying to thwart a burgeoning cottage industry of fake Elmyrs.
It's ironic, but as I say, it's low-hanging fruit, because people think, well, if I fake a fake, is it really a crime?
Mark is now 70 years old, the same age as Elmyr when he died. It's given him pause and a renewed determination to straighten out his friend's crooked legacy once and for all. Amy Hockert, Fox 9.
Welcome back. That story first ran in 2020, and 5 years later, we reached back out to Mark after a painting sold at a Minnetonka garage sale, you might have remembered this, that was rumored or maybe hoped to be painted by Vincent van Gogh himself. A New York art research group released a massive report saying that it had enough evidence that it was a Van Gogh, but there was skepticism from the Vincent van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. Well, now yesterday, the Star Tribune reported that that museum ruled that the painting was not a Van Gogh. So we wanted to revisit our conversation Amy Hockert had with Mark earlier this year. Take a listen.
Well, joining me now is Mark Forgy. 5 years later, Mark and I met just as COVID was starting and got that story going, and then the world shut down. So it's really good to see you here, 5 years later, Mark.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So you are a former lecturer on art forgery, and as we just saw in that piece, you really have real world lived experience in this space. I wanted to ask you about this garage sale Van Gogh that everybody's talking about. Obviously, we don't know if it's a real Van Gogh or not, but that's what we call it. I immediately thought of you when I saw this. What did you think when you first saw this garage sale painting?
Well, I'm not an expert on Van Gogh, but I thought the fact that it turned up in Minnesota was not entirely surprising, because art travels the globe over. Anybody who watches Antiques Roadshow is very familiar with that. But what struck me about this recent find is that it is anomalous because it has no history attached to it. And when we talk about authenticating a work of art, we depend largely on provenance, which is really a history of the piece that connects the artist to the current owner. And when that chain is broken, or there are large gaps in there, that leaves room for it being suspect.
Okay, because you said Van Gogh, really, there was a very short amount of time that he was producing this work, right?
Yes, basically from between 1880 and 1890, when he died, he was a furiously prolific artist, and his body of work numbers in the neighborhood of 2,000 acknowledged pieces. I don't know how many subsequent to that tally have turned up by surprise.
Well,
but I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
But this piece, as I say, has no history. It isn't connected to Van Gogh through ownership or history or exhibition or anything like that. So it really calls into question the legitimacy of the piece.
Yeah, and you had mentioned when I shared this link with you, your wife looked it up, and it sounds like the Van Gogh Museum made a sort of a declaration on this. Could you explain what they decided?
Well, I understand that the owner had approached the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam and submitted it for. He wanted an opinion on its prospective authenticity, and they declined to say it was a product of Van Gogh. And that is one of the problems that people face when they approach an institution. They have a piece of art that is purported to be by Monet or Van Gogh or Modigliani or whomever, and when the knowledge bank is so limited to a monolithic institution, and they give the imperial thumbs up or thumbs down, then that final decision there's no way of appealing that. I think it would be wiser to have a consortium of scholars and experts, forensic scientists, and so forth, to reach those kind of conclusions.
Interesting, because so the buyer picked it up for $50 at this garage sale, and then data science art research firm LMI Group bought it from them for $30,000, and now they're the ones who are trying to get it authenticated. And what I hear you saying is maybe there might be a little bit of self-interest there. Would you say?
I'm sure.
To get it authenticated?
I'm sure this endeavor is not motivated by scholarship. It's motivated by prospective market value of the piece. If it is authenticated, of course, it was supposed to be, they said, in the $15 million range. That might be grossly underestimated.
Underestimated?
Underestimated, yes. I think it could fetch a whole lot more than that. But what they've done is basically bought a very, very expensive lottery ticket. And even if they compile an elaborate 450-page document with perhaps compelling scientific evidence that suggests the painting is authentic, unless an institution like the Van Gogh Museum says it's worth. I mean, it is a legitimate piece. It could mean the difference in tens of millions of dollars in the marketplace.
Wow. Okay, I want to get back to that, but I'm very curious, and I think a lot of people want to know. You mentioned forensics. Can you give us some examples of the kinds of things that they would be doing right now to try to authenticate it forensically?
Well, there are various processes to do that. I don't have a scientific knowledge of that, but there's X-rays and testing the materials involved. For example,
like the paints, like could a paint have existed back then? That
yes,
kind of
exactly. They want to
Okay.
find out. They want to find out if the pigments are contemporaneous with that period in time. The canvas, for example, that it's on as well. So there are a number of ways to analyze those things.
And speaking of forensics, there is apparently a red hair in this garage sale painting. So I think people immediately go, well, can they do a DNA test? And then wouldn't that just settle it?
Well, yes, it could. If anyone had stolen away a lock of Van Gogh's hair, then they could be compared. And if indeed the DNA there was a DNA match, then there would be no doubt about its authenticity, and that would certainly even add to the attractiveness of the backstory.
Yeah.
But for example, a friend of mine was involved in an investigation in what was purported to be the last painting created by Jackson Pollock. It had ended up in the collection of his lover at the time for many, many years. And then, only in the recent past, they wanted to ascertain the legitimacy of the piece. They did a forensic study. They did a forensic study and found a hair embedded in the pigments of the painting.
Okay.
And it turned out to be a polar bear hair.
What?
Yes, because apparently Jackson Pollock had a polar bear rug in his studio. But here again, that in the court of law would only be considered circumstantial evidence. It does not indicate authorship.
That's incredible. And how funny that it's a hair and a hair that we're talking about here. So,
exactly.
I mean, this is maybe catching you off guard here, but I think people want to know, like, what are the chances that this could be it? This could be the real deal.
Well, as I say, again, it sounds like the volume of research this organization has done, to make a credible argument on the painting's behalf. The final say so again will come with the verdict of the Van Gogh Museum.
And they've already declined to say, or they said it was, inconclusive, I believe.
Yes, exactly.
So, okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So if they can't get it authenticated by, say, an entity like the Van Gogh Museum, we still have this painting. Any thoughts on what that might be worth as is?
No, I mean, the market has yet to chime in on what that might be. But if you recall, the last very important work that came to the marketplace was the most newly ordained piece by Leonardo, Salvator Mundi, and that fetched over $450 million. You know, but you know that you have to consider that Leonardo's oeuvre was very slight compared to Van Gogh. So you know, the pricing might be different, but there are a lot of billionaires floating around out there these days that would certainly not have a problem jacking up the price.
Right. We came into this right before the interview showing the story you and I did 5 years ago when you sort of worked with and lived with Elmyr de Hory in Ibiza. And he, from the story, people just in case they're tuning in a little bit later, passed away when he was 70. And he was sort of an infamous art forger, I guess, known in many circles.
Yes.
Became the bad boy celebrity of art forgery. But he ended up leaving. You inherited much of his work. So I'm curious, you know, how much of his work do you think is still out there, either in forged form or authentic? Do you have any idea?
No, it would be a sheer speculation. But what I can say with confidence is that, for example, I was recently contacted by an institution in Paris that's dedicated to creating a new catalogue raisonné on Modigliani. A catalogue raisonné is basically a compilation of all of the works of that artist. Unfortunately, Modigliani's oeuvre is probably the most polluted of any modern artists, and Elmyr certainly did his part in altering the historical record. Yeah. But I told them that I thought the French would have a better grasp of irony, thinking they can finally get this right 104 years after the artist's death. They haven't succeeded in the past, and I think their endeavors will fall short.
The last thing I want to ask you about is just kind of some advice for people as they are, maybe they're art hunters, you know, finding the treasure at the garage sale, or maybe they're, you know, weekend art lovers, and they're just popping in and out of some galleries that have, you know, art that's being resold. Are there things that people can look for, not to find, you know, a Van Gogh, obviously, but maybe, but more sort of practically to see that this is authentic and of high quality?
I think I can answer that succinctly. I think some of the most prudent words of wisdom Elmyr shared with me. He said, "Mark, never buy an art object for the price or the signature attached to it." Interesting. He says, when you buy something you love, you'll never feel cheated. And I think that's would be a good rule of thumb for people when they're, you know, looking to put something on their walls. You know, buy it because you love it, and not because of the signature or the price attached to it.
That is a perfect place to end it. Mark Forgy, thank you so much for your time today. It is always fascinating to speak with you. Really appreciate your insight.
Amy, great seeing you again. Thank you.
Seeing you. Okay. We'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 9 all day.
Welcome back. We all know Anthony Edwards, right? But not like Chris Hine does. The Wolves beat writer for the Star Tribune is writing a book on the life of the Timberwolves superstar. Our Amy Hockert sat down with Chris to talk about the process of writing the book and how he got the chance to do it.
Well, joining me now is Chris Hine. He's been covering the Wolves for 7 years for the Star Tribune. There are a few people who are closer to the action on the court and off the court. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Super excited about this book that you've written. Ant. It's just kind of called Ant. Subtitle: Incredible Journey of Rising NBA Star and of NBA Rising Star Anthony Edwards. Why did you want to write this?
I think his story is a unique one, and quite honestly, the opportunity kind of came to me as well at the same time. And having covered him, ever since he's been in Minnesota, his backstory from Atlanta and what he overcame to get to the NBA and the people that helped him along the way. And, I think at the end of the day, his is an inspiring story that I think a lot of people can relate to when, you overcome the death of your mother and grandmother to cancer so close to each other when he was about 13. And yet he still makes it to the NBA. And, I think that's a story worth telling. And, also in there is his 4 years with the Timberwolves, not this one, but a lot of the previous 4 years plus his Olympic experience. So I think it's going to be a really entertaining read for people.
Yeah. And before we get into the book, because there's so much to talk about there, I just want to point out stories like this, opportunities like this don't just fall into the laps of just anybody. Can you talk about a little bit about the process behind, getting him and his people kind of okaying all of this and just the work you put in, I guess, for years to make sure that, you're a trusted person in his life?
Yeah. So about 3 years ago, I did a story for the Strib where I went to Atlanta and I did a long feature that we ran in April, like the year they played Memphis in the playoffs, 2022. And that's when I got to meet a lot of people that were very close to him as he was growing up and people who are still close to him to this day. He keeps a very tight inner circle, and it's a lot of people in that circle that were with him back in the day. So when I had this opportunity come along, a friend of mine, Joe Perry is his name. He's my literary agent, but we're also childhood friends. We grew up in the same small town in Pennsylvania, and he happened to enter the book world and heard that there was maybe the demand or the desire to do a book on Anthony Edwards, and here we are, almost a year after that process began. So the combination of that story basically setting the tone for what the book would be, I was able to give that to my publisher and say, this is what the book would be, just more, essentially. And they loved it. They loved the idea. And then we said, the second half of the book would basically be his NBA career and how he's charted his time with the Timberwolves. So that's kind of how the book breaks down, is basically half his life before the NBA and then half probably his life in the NBA plus the Olympics last summer.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about his life and maybe even break it down in that way. So if you look at, pre-NBA, what are some of the pivotal moments in his life, some of the highlights that you think really define that piece of who he is?
Yeah, so he started out playing football and basketball from an early age. It was a lot of kind of 6 months of the year was football, 6 months of the year was basketball, and it was basically rinse and repeat until he got to high school. So he was always busy playing sports. That's kind of how, he stayed out of trouble. It's that was the structure that was in his life from an early age. And everybody in his life thought that he was going to be a football player. Like, they did not think he was going to be a basketball star. Growing up, he was one of the best young football players in Atlanta. And that's how everybody knew him in Atlanta. He was a running back for the most part. He played a little defense. But you could watch old YouTube highlights of him as a running back at like 9, 10, 11 years old. And he's out there just trucking people. He's moving by people. He was a really good youth football player. Basketball was kind of on the back burner. It was something he did that he really enjoyed, but he wasn't like a phenom from a young age. And it wasn't until he got to high school that he basically pivoted from playing football because he didn't like getting hurt. He got hurt a little bit when he was like 12, 13, and he didn't really like all the injuries he was getting. So he basically pivoted from football and began really getting in the gym to work on his game in basketball, and he just took off from there essentially throughout his high school years.
And then you mentioned kind of in his personal life, the loss of a couple of people. And I'm not sure what point that happens in his life, but it sounds like he's been through a lot personally as well.
Yeah, his mother and grandmother each passed away. Yvette and Shirley each passed away when he was 13, and obviously it was a very difficult time. But his family, he stuck by his family through it all. They were a great support for each other. His sister and his two brothers. They were there to support each other through it. He had a lot of people in his life, whether it was old football coaches, whether it was his old AAU basketball coach, a guy named Dana Watkins, his trainer at the time and now current business manager, Justin Holland, people where he went to high school at Holy Spirit, this Catholic school on the northern end of Atlanta. Like everybody just kind of watched out for him, and made sure he was okay. If he needed a ride somewhere, if he needed a meal, if he, needed this or needed that, needed a place to stay, like everybody kind of, this community of people pitched in to really make sure that he got to the finish line and got where he needed to go. And that's kind of the story. It's a story not just of Ant, but the story of all these people that you're going to meet that are very important in his life then and still very important in his life to this day.
Yeah, and I think some people got a little bit of a glimpse into that personal life. Starting Five, that was the name of the Netflix show. So those who watched that saw the tight knit relationship he has currently with his sister and his brothers. It seems to me like he lives a pretty simple life. Comparatively, I guess when you look at kind of, where he lives and, it's not like back in the day we had Cribs, right, on MTV and you walk in and everybody had this huge mansion. And do you get the feeling like he's kind of just, on the outside, just trying to keep the noise out? And what's life like for him?
Yeah, I think that's correct to a certain extent. I mean, the if you watch the Netflix documentary, you know how much he loves playing video games, and that's always been a trait of his since he was a kid. It's basically he played sports and he played video games. That's basically been his life ever since he was a kid. And so he likes to keep it simple in that way. That's generally what he likes to do off the court. He's in the gym a lot. Like he'll go for a lot of workouts, throughout the day, spend time at the facility, off seasons, always working out, things like that. But that's generally kind of how he likes to live his life. It's very simple, it's very easy, he's very competitive. So, he's constantly competing. If they're not playing video games, he might be playing friends in, pool or spades or something like that. Like, at the house, like he's always competing is how I would term it.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's the answer to my next question, which is like, what fuels that crazy work ethic? Because you hear about, from people like you, Grady and Jim P talk about it too during the broadcast, like the amount of work that goes in to being Anthony Edwards. I don't think anybody would really realize just how much work goes into that. So what is it that fuels him? Is it the competitiveness, or is there something else there?
I think so, a little bit. People in his life will say that after his mother and grandmother passed, that his work ethic and it reached a different level, that it seemed to drive him and motivate him after that. And I think his close associate and business manager Justin Holland put it really well. Once Ant started seeing the results of all the hard work when he was like 14, 15 years old, he got kind of addicted to it. Like he started to see the results of all of his hard work, and that just kind of multiplied on itself. So he would want to get in the gym more, keep working out, because he could feel himself and see himself getting better. So I think that was probably the pivot point at his life where he didn't quite have this work ethic until he was a teenager. And then when he got it and it clicked in, like he's never really stopped ever since, all the way through to the NBA.
Wow. Wolves fans and maybe if you don't even follow the Wolves that closely can see, I think, that he is one of these guys who is who he is, no matter who he's talking to or what situation he's in. I mean, is that an accurate depiction? Whether he's dropping F-bombs during a live interview or he's, talking to former President Obama, he's just he is who he is, right?
That's it. He's his authentic self at all times, and I think that's part of what people like and appreciate about him. There's no false front, there's no putting on airs, and there's none of that with him. He's gonna be himself at all moments, whether a camera's in front of him or not. And I think when you talk about this whole face of the league thing, that people want to say who's the next face of the NBA, when Steph and LeBron eventually hang it up. And I think that authenticity and that charisma is something that you can't discount, and when it comes to attracting people to the sport, to the NBA, to the Timberwolves. Like, you just see it, like the way the crowd. I remember the first year the fans were allowed back in the building after COVID, and that was kind of I think it was the second season. His rookie season was the COVID year where fans weren't in the building. But when they got a chance to really root for Anthony Edwards live, he got a chance to feed off of their energy. It was unlike anything I had seen in Target Center before. Just the way he affects and energizes people around him or the fan base, like you can't really teach that.
Yeah. Chris, is there a double edge to that sword for Anthony Edwards where the weight of the world is also on him when it comes to the Timberwolves' success? Does he ever show that he feels that or not really?
It doesn't really show that he feels it. No. I tell people all the time, this is his fifth NBA season. He's 23 years old. Yes, it's his fifth year, but he's still young. When you look at the arc of like great players in the NBA and when they really start to win in their careers and win championships, it's really not until like 26, 27, 28. Like he still like got a couple years here where he still isn't at his peak of what he's going to be as an NBA player yet. That's still like 5 years away. Like about 28, like your late 20s is generally where you peak as an NBA player. So I think, in some ways the best is yet to come in his career, just because in the arc of an NBA star's career, he's still on the beginning stage of that. And, he's still got things to learn about, just how to execute in late in games and mastering defenses and this and that. And he's been learning and acquiring these skills and knowledge over these first 5 years. But by the time he's like 27, 28 years old, that maturity is going to kick in, that knowledge is going to kick in, and you wonder what kind of player he's going to be once he gets to that point in his career.
It's crazy to hear you say like the best is yet to come. Like it's just crazy to think about it could get any better. But to your point, there's always things to learn. Has he ever talked to you at all about, or have you ever noticed anything about his sort of feelings about Minnesota? Just as far as culture or things to do, or are there things that he like? Does he ever go ice fishing? You know what I mean? Things like that. Like, is there anything Minnesota specific that you know of about him that he likes or doesn't like?
I never really asked or anything like that. Not 100% certain, just because, again, I feel like it's gym, video games, pool, cards, whatever it is. Like that's generally his life. So I don't know if he likes to ice fish. I don't know, I don't know if he's hanging out by the lake too much in the summertime. I'm not sure what his routine really is in those months. But I do think him coming to Minnesota was one of the best things that probably could have happened for him at 19 years old, like getting out of Atlanta, getting away from home, getting away from some of the hangers on and people that, may have wanted to get a piece of, somebody who's a rising NBA star. That could be a lot to deal with, especially for a young person at 19, when they're just starting their NBA career. So coming to Minnesota, a whole different place, a place where some of those hangers on maybe don't want to travel to in the winter because it's too cold. I think it was a good thing for him. And, I think he's just enjoyed it. I don't think he's the kind of person who will, in the future of his career, make decisions based on like, oh, I want to go to LA because it's a bigger market, or New York because of the advertising opportunities, or what have you, right? I think what he cares about most is winning at the end of the day, and being a part of a franchise that's going to be perennially competitive. So I think as long as the Timberwolves do that throughout the course of his career, that they're a competitive team year in and year out, most years, I don't think there's ever going to be an issue with Anthony Edwards staying in Minnesota.
Wow. Fantastic. Wow. I cannot wait to read this. It's available for pre-order right now. Ant is the title. Chris Hine is the author. The incredible journey of NBA rising star Anthony Edwards, and then pre-order now, and then it goes live June 3rd. Yeah.
June 3rd. Yes, you got
June
it.
3rd. Fantastic. How excited are you about this?
Very excited. Very excited. I won't believe it until it's actually in my hand, though.
Has he read it? Do you know?
No, I don't. He actually did not. I did not sit down for him specifically for the book. I sat down with a lot of people around him for it, and everybody gave me their time, but I didn't actually speak to him specifically for the book. Although there's plenty of quotes of his in the book from my 5 years of covering him, for sure.
For sure. Yeah, it's a tricky balance you guys have to cover them in a way to earn trust, but also to keep that professional distance as well. So it looks like you are mastering that. And as a Wolves fan, I always appreciate your coverage and just the way you approach it. So Chris, thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to read it. I cannot wait. And the sequel needs to be, does he ever go ice fishing?
One of these days I'll ask him that, see if he's ever been out there.
Sounds good. All right, Chris, thank you so much.
Amy.
Can't wait to read it. All right, take care.
It's good stuff from Chris there. Can't wait to read that book. We gave Amy the day off, yet she keeps popping up in the show wearing different outfits and all kinds of stuff. So, one of these times we'll actually let her enjoy her day off. But that's going to do it for the first hour plus of All Day Live, but we have another hour coming up next. We're going to check back in with Lauren Andrago, see if she eats that hot dog at CHS Field. I don't know. For now, let's leave you with a little moment of look at this. of All Day Live. Look at it out there. There's a live shot of Minneapolis, U.S. Bank Stadium. We are in the 60s right now, on our way to 70s. It is a great day. Welcome back inside. Ryan Rablin in for Amy Hocker. We gave her the day off today, so she will be back next week. And if you saw the first hour of the show, her job is definitely safe. She'll be back next week. No concerns about that. Coming up in this next hour, we got a loaded show for you. We're going to talk a little bit about the weather right now. We're going to check back with Lauren Andrago, who is at CHS Field. The Saints home opener is tonight. We're going to check in with our friends from Rough Start Rescue. They're always up to something with their little four-legged friends, so we'll check in with them. We're also going to talk some hockey with Alexis Pearson. We're going to talk a little Wild and a little Gopher hockey. Tough loss for the Gophers yesterday. I first kind of want to start with this. This has been developing here. Let's take a look at this. This is the big board here, and you see the Dow is down about 670 points right now. It was as low as 740. So the Dow, Wall Street really taking a hit here as we get to the final hours of trading here on this Friday. It could be a combination of things, but we know that the president announced the other day about the auto tariffs on imports. And there's just some kind of concerns from consumers, maybe about spending with some uncertainties going on with the global trade war. So a lot of that could be playing out here on Wall Street, and why we see the Dow down as it is right now. We'll keep an eye on that as the hour continues here, but as we get into a few hours of trading left on Wall Street. So back inside here. Back home, the weather is the big talker. It is nice today. It's a beautiful day, but that is going to change, and it is going to change quickly. Our meteorologist, Cody Matz, is going to walk us all through it right now. Cody, take it away.
Minnesota cold to the north, and then we all cool off over the course of the weekend. It's going to be kind of a wild ride over the next 36 to 48 to 72 hours, really taking us through the weekend. A meteorologist, Cody Matz, will look at that forecast. Some cloud cover arriving in the Twin Cities off and on, and we'll see that in parts of central Minnesota. One of the reasons why central Minnesota temperatures will be quite a bit cooler than southern Minnesota, and then northern Minnesota quite a bit cooler than that, as a huge spread in temperatures on Friday over the course of the state. So warm air nosing into parts of southern and central Minnesota. South of that warm front, southwestern Minnesota, where there is a burn ban and a red flag warning. Low humidity and temperatures in the mid to borderline upper 80s. Contrast that with upper 20s and low 30s in northeastern Minnesota. So just a wild ride through the day Friday. Now this area, low pressure will continue eastward. That's giving some precipitation to mostly northern Minnesota with a wintry mix and some travel concerns for the northern quarter of the state with that winter weather advisory in place. The metro and the rest of the state is waiting on this low to push in as we get into Saturday, especially the second half of Saturday, first half of Sunday, for a rain and snow combination. Walking through Futurecast. So there's the wintry mix across northern Minnesota with a coating of freezing rain and icy conditions and a couple of inches of snow, especially the farther north you go. For everyone else, it's in and out of some cloud cover and much warmer temperatures. Like I mentioned, 80s in southern Minnesota, 60s, 70s, close to 80 depending on where you are in the Twin Cities metro, and then chillier the farther north you go. All that kicks eastward. Eventually we see temperatures plummet behind our cold front that will sag southward pretty quickly Friday evening. Could pop a couple of stray storms in southeastern Minnesota. Those actually running a level 1 risk of severe weather if they get going. Now that will kick east real fast, and then we're actually quiet overnight Friday night. Honestly, we're quiet. We're probably dry through Saturday morning and maybe even through the lunch hour. Once we get past that, though, the moisture starts to arrive with that second area of low pressure. We'll see the rain kind of sputter to a start by mid to late afternoon for a lot of central and southern Minnesota, and then it will start to become a whole lot heavier. That will help cool off the atmosphere Saturday evening, Saturday night. Obviously, the sun going down will help that as well, and so parts of this will start its transition over to a rain-snow mix or just committing to some snow in some cases. While the metro will mostly dance with rain, there is an opportunity, especially in the overnight hours, to maybe get some slushy, very minor coatings and minor accumulations. And I don't want to talk very specific totals, but possible for a couple plus inches. With a little band, notice how it's across mostly central Minnesota. That's where the best chances sit for 2s and 3s, maybe a little more than that. We'll get a little more specific as it gets closer. Like I mentioned, while the metro may see some off and on flakes and may even commit to some snow showers and legit snow at times, the fact that I've got a wet ground, now a warm ground, it's going to be tough to get anything more than real minor stuff, especially on anything man-made. So grassy surface accumulations may be there, but getting stuff to accumulate on roads and in your back deck and your driveway will be a little bit more complicated. For your Friday, though, it is generally all about the warmth, especially in central and southern Minnesota, but look at the contrast in temperatures. Upper 20s, northeastern Minnesota, rain, snow mix, and a freezing rain combo. 50s from Cambridge to St. Cloud. Low to mid 70s for the heart of the metro, and then low to mid 80s in southwestern Minnesota. We zoom in on the metro, though. It does get a little more complicated, and you can't just say 74 because the metro is going to be a wide range of temperatures. We could be low to mid 60s with a bit more cloud cover in the far north metro from St. Michael to Ramsey, Forest Lake, and Somerset, Wisconsin. You get to the heart of the metro, yeah, low, maybe mid 70s. But you get to the south side, parts of Scott and Dakota County, Prior Lake to Lakeville, southward to Elko, Newmarket, Northfield, some low 80s potentially. So there is a wide range in temperature across the greater Twin Cities metro, and then northerly flow kicks in. Temperatures plummet very quickly after sunset Friday into Friday night. Overnight lows will be back in the 30s, and we just won't rise much as we get into the day on Saturday. Obviously, with that northeast breeze, we'll add some wind. The first half does actually look dry, and then we'll sputter the rain to a start and then become heavy at times towards sunset, and that will help the transition to at least a rain-snow mix as we get into Saturday evening, Saturday night. So accumulations look best in terms of snowfall north and west of the Twin Cities metro, but some minor coatings possible. That's done by around lunchtime Sunday, give or take. We'll kick out the precipitation, but cloud cover will linger Sunday afternoon, and it will be chilly. High temperatures in the upper 30s. That's it. So about 10 degrees below average. We'll rebound on Monday a little bit. The sunshine will help at 41, and then a new system rolls in as we head into April, Tuesday and Wednesday with more rain showers, maybe even some mixy showers Wednesday morning. The good news here is the Twins home opener does look dry, but it will be cool with highs in those middle 40s.
All right, thank you, Cody. You know, we're trying to talk baseball here, and Cody wants to talk snow, but I understand. He's got to do it, though. We're going to go back to baseball here. Lauren Andrego is live at CHS Field. The St. Paul Saints home opener is tonight, and Lauren is there. First, she was eating hot dog, not eating the hot dog, showing us the big hot dog.
No.
Now she's down on the field. Lauren, take it away.
Yeah, now I think I'm going to go take some BP, Ryan. No, my player days are long over, but getting on this field, oh my gosh, I really want to take some batting practice after this. We're right on the warning track. I can hear myself in my ear, so I'm going to take my AirPod out for now, Ryan. We're getting ready 4 hours until gates open here at CHS Field. Game starts at 6:30. You know, I'm a Lower Town resident, and my favorite thing to do in the summer is go to a St. Paul Saints game. There's nothing else I'd rather do. So I want to give you some insider tips. First of all, this is cash free. You want to have your card. Second of all, it's a very affordable thing to do. Tickets are very reasonably priced. My favorite place to sit, right behind me, right behind left field, the berm here. Bring your blanket. I think tickets are $10, and it's an excellent spot, but really not a bad seat in the house. The other thing I wanted to tell you is you got to hit up the mini donuts behind left field fence as well. I think they're called Lil Oinkers. My favorite place, by the bucket. Baseball, mini donuts, and fireworks. I can't think of a better way to spend a Friday night. Sean Aronson is back here with me, who graciously welcomed me back on the field. Thank you for letting us come out here.
Of course.
It's not just us here. I think I've seen a couple dozen crew members out and about. What does it take to get ready for opening day?
It takes a village. It really does. Not just the front office, where we've got about 25 or so strong that get ready for this all season long or all off season long, but we've got ushers that will come in here and help people out. We've got the cleaning crew that's out here. We've got our concessionaires, as you saw. Obviously, we showcased the hot dog. I mean, it takes everybody to get this thing ready for opening day. So we're pretty excited.
You were talking about how you focus on bringing quality baseball, but also having and talk about crew.
Grounds crew, yeah, there you go.
We've got everyone around here. Grounds crew, who are doing an excellent job, by the way. I saw them watering the grass, getting the dirt all ready. We've got some chalk here, we're all ready to go. But you guys focus on making sure families have a good time too. And there's all sorts of different activities and things to do. Tell me about some of them. There's this ship behind us is kind of new, isn't it?
No, the ship's been there for a little bit. It's kind of a group space over there that corporate groups rent it out, and the ship comes with it, so you can sit inside the ship and watch the game. We've got our kids zone out beyond the center field wall over there. Madonna will make an appearance, of course, numerous times. Our four-legged swine, the Great Fatsby, this year, so he'll make his debut today.
Oh, great!
So we're excited. Look, opening day. Look, we play 75 games here. They're all exciting, but there's nothing quite like opening day.
It truly is. And you said tickets are still available for tonight.
Tickets still available. You can go to saintsbaseball.com. You can always get tickets via saintsbaseball.com. You can call us if you really want to talk to a human, but I know a lot of people don't want to do that anymore these days.
You make it easy. You got something for everybody. First 1,000 people are going to get one of these cool shirts. And we've got games on Saturday and Sunday too. Weather won't be as excellent as it is today, but there's going to be baseball all weekend.
I can't recommend enough for people to come down today. It's going to be the best opening day we've had in many years. Back as an independent team, we played in May, but this is the best opening day we've had as an affiliated ball club. So come out today, 6:37 p.m. tonight, 2:07 Saturday and Sunday.
And fireworks after the game.
Fireworks after the game. First one of many this year.
I will say, you guys put on a spectacular fireworks show. It's very long, like 15 minutes long.
Yeah, it'll be between 10 and 15 minutes, and then our organist, he'll come up with the music of choice to play along with the fireworks tonight.
It's so great. And you've got the usher-tainers that are all out and about. That makes it a very unique baseball game.
For people that don't know, usher-tainers, they're actors and actresses in the Twin Cities that create characters and they interact with the fans. So we've got like a French chef, we've got a nerd and nerdette. They're actually a married couple, real married couple, but their characters are nerd and nerdette. So it's a lot of fun out here.
What's going on right over here, Sean?
This is our grounds crew at its best. They're just getting ready the home plate area, getting ready for tonight before they both teams will take batting practice and infield and all that. Then they'll chalk the field, water it down, and we'll be ready to go.
And I gotta say too, you are on the mic, play-by-play. So when people are listening to the broadcast, they're hearing your voice. You need to know about every one of these teams.
Yeah, fortunately or unfortunately for that, I need to know about everybody. It takes an entire off season to get ready, and then during the season, you're just updating everything that you do. But I've been doing it for this has been my 25th season doing play-by-play, so I'm very excited to be here for my 19th.
It's feeling like baseball season here. We can smell the grills. I don't know how you guys have a grill big enough for that 6-foot hot dog, but with the grass being watered and people making food and the drinks coming out, like it's feeling like baseball season.
Baseball season is officially here. There's no more holding back. We're ready to go. Again, it's going to be an amazing night. I cannot recommend enough for people to come down today, enjoy opening day, enjoy everything that comes along with that, and the beautiful weather. Again, we've talked about it. I'm not going to try and sell you on great weather Saturday and Sunday because it doesn't look that great. We want you to come out, but tonight's going to be perfect. There is no excuse not to come out. Perfect weather, fireworks, and we're giving away these for the first 1,000 people. What more do you want?
You can't sell it better, Sean. And our meteorologist was talking about snow this week, so there are some fun suckers around here, but you're not going to find them here at CHS Field. Sean, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck tonight. Ryan, gates open in about 4 hours. You got to come soon if you want to get your hands on one of those cool windbreakers that Sean was wearing.
You think I could get out early? You think I could just leave?
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
It's Friday, right?
It's Friday.
I don't see what management would have to say about that.
No. I'd love to get down there with you. Lauren, it looks like fun. Have fun. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
I will. You too. Good job.
All right. We're back here. That looks fun. I want to be out there. That looks fun. All right, coming up on All Day, we've got more here. We're going to talk about mental health coming up, and mental health specifically with children and teenagers. And how do parents know if something's wrong? And if so, where do they go to find out, to find help? We'll talk about that next. All Day Live continues right after this.
Welcome back. We want to talk about the state of mental health and children, which sounds like an incredibly overwhelming topic, and it really is for so many people. There was a panel recently at the U of M that caught our attention, and we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that they talked about, some of the problems, some of the recommendations that came out of it, so that we can see where we are with mental health. So joining me now is Jessica Simasek, Director of the Tele-Outreach Center at the U of M. Thanks for joining us, Jessica.
Thanks so much for having me today.
Yeah, so I guess first, if we could just reset here, a new year as we head into the year 2025. We've been through so much in the last 5 years. Where are we with children's mental health?
Yeah, so we're not at a great place. In 2021, there was a joint state of emergency declared by the American Academy of Pediatrics, American Academy of Child Adolescent Psychiatry, Children's Hospital Association. We're now coming into 2025, and we still haven't really turned the corner of kind of moving out of some of the crisis that we have going on right now.
I think the way that a lot of people might feel this is wait times. You have an issue, it pops up, it's urgent, you feel like I really need to get this help for my child or myself. What does that landscape look like right now?
Yeah, it's really challenging. I think you could talk to any family. I talk to a lot of families throughout my day here at the U, and they're waiting long periods of time. Some places are having to close wait lists, so they're having to call multiple providers to get access to care. There can be a lot of variation across the state, especially in greater Minnesota, for access to specialty kinds of providers, especially for mental and behavioral health services for children.
And it's interesting you bring up Greater Minnesota because you all are doing some work here in the Twin Cities, but also to your point, this is a huge problem in more rural areas that don't have the resources. So tell me about some of the work that you guys have been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the event that we had, the panel that we had at Twin Cities campus, we actually first had a panel at the University of Minnesota Morris campus in October, where again, we brought together policymakers, clinical providers, educational providers, people who care a lot about children's mental health. And we did a panel, we did a table discussion, and then we kind of summarized that information. And
this is Ryan with Fox 9. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
And yes. And am I saying your first name right?
Might be
How did you say it?
Periods of time.
Azure?
There might
Azure.
not be available services where they are, so it's not uncommon for families to
Got
have
it.
to drive
Thank you.
maybe an hour.
Yeah.
We are just wrapping up a segment here. We've got about 4 minutes or so left. Then we'll take a 2-minute break. So I had to guess about 6 minutes or so.
Okay, perfect. That sounds good.
All right. Time off work and things like that.
All right, thanks.
What jumped out at you as sort of themes of this? Are there issues that are just
we can probably
burning right now?
Absolutely. And, I think that they really highlight the importance and urgency of this problem. So we do, unfortunately, have a lot of children receiving very acute levels of behavioral health care. And we think part of why this is because they're missing that earlier care that they could be getting because of shortages of providers across the state, also in the metro locations. And so children who might be kind of presenting in emergency departments with mental health issues, or being in hospital settings or other acute care kinds of settings. That came up time and time again in the panel today across people from different, from the schools, people from clinical fields, and then also in our discussion with providers and educators and policymakers later on.
So trying to work backwards, basically, and fix it, which we have to do in a lot of things in society. Were there recommendations that stuck out to you as far as, possible solutions for this?
Absolutely. And I think that was the really empowering part of it. Is this is a big topic. It can be a challenging topic. But the good news is there's a lot of folks focused on it. And there are some emerging recommendations that are aligning across different fields and different groups. One of those is, sustaining the providers we have, giving them support, training, access to specialists so that they can support the children they're currently supporting and not losing more ground, but then also building those pipelines of future providers to kind of help with the increased prevalence of need that there is right now. So that was one. Another thing that came up was having point people who could help navigate families through these different care systems, so that they have one person to call who can give them answers to all the information, and they're not calling 6 different organizations to figure out where their child needs to go for a certain appointment.
Yeah, anybody who's been down that road knows it can be a part-time, maybe even a full-time job, just trying to coordinate and appointments and time off from work and that kind of thing. So that makes a lot of sense. And then what happens from here? With you have these recommendations, and then is there an action plan?
Yeah, that's the hard part, but the most important part of it. So we wanted to set out to do this series, both in Morris and the Twin Cities, with bringing the information that everyone is taking time out of their day to come provide back to the community. And so our commitment to attendees at these different events is that we're going to turn around all of the notes that have come out of the events from the discussions, all of the recommendations coming out from the panelists, and put those in university websites, send those out to folks who attended so that we can really start to check off those action items as a community.
It has to be really difficult to not get overwhelmed by all of this and still feel like you're chipping away at this. Do you feel like we are making strides in some areas, or is it just still so overwhelming?
No, I do feel like we're making strides, and I feel so great, coming out of this event and having so many people. We had an overwhelming number of people. We had the largest crowd we've ever had at a policy breakfast kind of event. And everyone was coming with that energy of, we know there's a challenge and we're up to solving it, and we're going to do it, together. And so I do think we're turning a corner, and we just have to kind of keep moving on what are the immediate changes we can do now, because we know kids can't wait. It's not okay for families to be waiting 9 months, 13 months for services children need now. But then what are those long-term plans so that we can kind of rebuild that continuum of care, so that kids are getting what they need when they need it.
Okay. Well, we appreciate the work that you guys are doing, and this affects, if it doesn't affect you directly, someone very close to you who this affects. It's just, this is the time we live in, so it's good to kind of understand what's going on behind the scenes and on the ground. With the boots that you guys have on the ground. So we appreciate that. We'll try to check back in with you in the near future and see how that traction is coming along. But thank you so much, Jessica Simasek, the Director of Tele-Outreach at the Tele-Outreach Center at the University of Minnesota. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Amy.
All right, we'll be right back.
And welcome back. You're watching All Day Live. I'm Ryan Rablin. Amy's away. It doesn't mean we can't have fun. In fact, we might be having more fun now that Amy's away. No, I wouldn't. Right now, we are going to check in with our friends at Rough Start Rescue. We love to check in with these guys, mostly because of everything that's going on around them. Azure Davis of Rough Start Rescue joins us. What's going on there, guys? Tell us about what you're doing.
Putting us back on. So we were on in last month, and we were actually doing a little showcase of 2 dogs that we had here and their story. And I'm going to show you an update on one of those dogs in just a minute. But we had talked about back, and I believe it was November, we had showed the viewers an expansion that we were working on at Rough Start Rescue. So we're up in Princeton, and we have I would say more of a resource center for our fosters, because we are foster based and we do have fosters all over the Twin Cities. But we wanted to give you an update on the expansion. So we added on 1,200 square feet to our building for many reasons. But one of them is this current room that I'm standing in. We do our own veterinary services and we do our own education events. When we have people in here, we had all of the foster supplies in here as well. You couldn't move. It was pretty crazy. So we are able to expand our services now as far as doing our kids' education events. So that'll be held right here in this room. There is more information on our website coming up. It's in April is the next one. So check that out if anyone wants to get their kids involved in animal welfare and Rough Start Rescue. There's information on there. I'm going to bring you into this expansion if that's you want to see.
Yes, let's do it. Let's see it.
Yeah, so everything you see around here is donated for the most part by stores, individuals. When people foster for Rough Start Rescue, everything is supplied to them for free. So fostering is free, besides maybe some gas money traveling back and forth, typically to here for vetting. So if you want to come in here, I'll show you the expansion. So this is 1,200 square feet that we had added on. Don't ask me how everything in this room fit in that room before,
oh my goodness.
I don't know. So we have all of our pet supplies in here. We are able to, it's really, really nice. We have a big overhead door now. So when we do our transports, we have a big Rough Start van that we can actually pull in and unload animals. So, you know, for safety, that's a huge thing, unloading them so that in case anyone were to take off. But also weather, we don't have to unload animals anymore in the freezing rain or snow. So this has been so nice. We've just got this about the last month that we've been using this now. Another thing is just all of the supplies in here we're able to provide not only to our fosters, but back to the community. So whenever we have a surplus, we do community give back days here, usually in the parking lot. But a lot of this, you know, we had to turn down donations for a while because we didn't have the space, even though there's a need and a demand. So this has really helped us be able to say yes to those donations and keep them coming in. I'll show you, we can go over here, show you our little friend
Yeah,
from
just
the other
keep
month.
taking us on a tour. We love this.
Yeah, the tour is my favorite part. So this is Willow, and if you remember from last month, Delta and Cleo were their names when they came into the rescue. And they actually were found in Cokato under a deck. Very, very afraid. They're pretty under-socialized, but now they are both in homes, and they are both adopted, and they're doing amazing. So she's actually learned sit, stay, has neighborhood dog friends. It's kind of become the life of the party. So I think it's just great to show people that some of these animals come into the rescue. I mean, they were puppies, you know, 12, 13 weeks old, highly under-socialized, terrified. We split them up. They did go to separate homes, which is a good thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of littermate syndrome before, but it's a very real thing. So sometimes they feed off of each other's energy, especially the fearful energy. And they were hiding together. As soon as we split them up and they were into other homes, they were thriving within a few days even.
Wow.
She does have other dogs in her adoptive home that she loves, but she's very sweet. So I thought it was just a great update to show everyone. She's also getting so much bigger than what she was for anyone that saw her story before.
Yeah. And did you say she has a home lined up?
She does. She is.
Okay.
Yep, she is getting adopted. So is her sister. They're both getting adopted and doing wonderful. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, and so part of Rough Start Rescue's kind of mission is to make sure that these dogs are kind of ready to go into a home and they can interact both with people and other animals better?
Yeah, and that's the best part too, being foster-based. So, you know, these, whether it's a dog, we do cats and dogs and some critters, but the fosters can really set them up for success. So the fosters bring them into their home and they can tell a potential adopter, you know, are they good with kids, if they have kids at home, cats, dogs, versus, you know, going to maybe Humane Society, shelter, breeder. You don't always know the answer to those questions. So being foster-based, that's one of the big perks. And our fosters are wonderful. And anyone watching this that is interested in fosters, we always need fosters. So you get to pick the adoptive homes as well.
Yes. So walk us through the process of that. If you're looking to adopt one of these animals, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so if somebody wants to foster or adopt, if they can go to roughstartrescue.org. We have on the website applications and kind of the process for both. But if somebody is interested in adopting, you'll fill out an application and then we get you in touch with their foster. And so then you'll get to ask all the questions you have. The foster will have questions for you. And it's more of a conversation-based approach to see if it's the right fit.
Excellent. Well, we always like having you guys on. Exciting to see the expansion. That looks like, as you said, and I won't ask how you fit all that stuff into the other room before.
I don't.
It looks like you guys have a lot more space and maybe could even use another expansion coming up, too.
Yeah, at some point for sure. It's crazy how quickly this fills up. And I was going to mention, too, behind me, before I forget, you'll see a little sign on the shelf. It says wet kitten food. We are completely out of the kitten food. I mean, I think there's maybe 10 cans up there, but kitten season is coming. We already had a couple kittens come into the rescue this week. It's going to be full-blown kitten season, and we are bombarded with requests for help, and we will desperately need food. It's one of those things we have a really hard time keeping up with for kitten food.
And the best way for people to get that food to you, just drop it on by?
Yeah, they can bring it right to our location in Princeton. They can reach out to us on the website too and send us an email, and we'll kind of connect depending on how much. We do have volunteers in different areas of central Minnesota, so they could also meet up with them.
Excellent. Sounds great. You guys are doing great work. Azure Davis, Rough Start Rescue. We had the graphic wrong. When I say we, I mean me. It's not rough. It's rough. We get it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, R-U-F-F. Yes.
Yeah. So that was my fault. That's my fault. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
You know, spelling. Yeah, never really my thing. So we're going to take a quick break. We will be right back. You're watching All Day Live here. We'll be with you till the top of the hour here. Don't go anywhere. Look outside again. Minneapolis on a now 60 approaching 70 degree day, but as Cody Matz told us earlier, that is all about to change real quickly. So since the weather is about to change, instead of talking baseball, let's talk a little hockey. I want to bring in Alexis Pearson, Wild Radio Network. You were a broadcaster for the PWHL as well. Alexis, thanks for joining us.
There's lots to talk about, so much hockey. It was an elite sports day yesterday, so a lot to talk about today.
It was, and I know we chatted beforehand too. I was like, when we talk about Gophers, it's got to be all you, because I'm March Madness, I'm baseball opening day, so I don't have enough screens for all this. let's start with the Wild, and let's start maybe with chasing history and one of the NHL goal, Wayne Gretzky's NHL record. I can't even say it. So I'll just let you handle it. Ovechkin was in town. He's chasing Gretzky's record.
Well, there's a reason you can't say it, because we were never meant to talk about this. This was a record that we thought we would never see broken, likely in history. I mean, I grew up a hockey fan, and you always kind of talked about these records, plural, as most of them being records that would never be broken. We just never thought we'd see anyone who would be able to do it. And now Ovechkin likely going to break it this season. If not, he will do it next season. But at the start of this season, a lot of people thought, okay, Ovechkin might break it, but it probably won't happen this year. If it's going to happen, it might be next year or the year after that. And then he's just gone on this rampage this season. And now it's like, if he doesn't break it by the end of the year, like, I don't know, that would be, the thought of that now seems crazy. So it felt for a while, and anybody who's a Minnesota sports fan for a long time knows, it felt for a while like it was for sure going to happen against the Wild last night. I know as soon as they started moving around national games to follow along this journey with Ovechkin, and the game last night got moved to national TV, it just felt like it was going to happen against us. But thankfully it did not, and normally OV is a Wild killer, and he didn't even get a goal period last night. So the Wild were able to hold him off from getting on the score sheet, and that chase is going to have to continue for a little bit longer. But like I said, if it doesn't happen by the end of the season at this point, I would be shocked.
Yeah, and it kind of would have been fun to see him get one goal so fans could say they were kind of part of the record chase leading up to it. But the important part, though, Alexis, is that the Wild won, and they needed to. They had coming off back-to-back losses, now granted against two tough teams. The Capitals, I believe, are the best team in the league, so this was a key win, and the Wild needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. The Caps are one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league as of right now. They've already clinched their playoff spot. They're rocking and rolling. It's been incredible what they've been able to do as a team so far this season. And it felt like this was going to be another tough game for the Minnesota Wild. And like you said, they had strung together a couple losses after winning a couple in a row. Their scoring woes are still kind of going on, and it just felt like this was going to be a tough night for the Minnesota Wild. And I thought they played a really cohesive, really good game against the Capitals the other night, and you get an extra star for that when it's against a really good team like the Caps. So I was very impressed with the way the Wild came out, and they got behind in that game. You know, they scored that first goal, and then the Caps come back and they score a couple, and you're starting to think, here we go again. We're going to get one goal tonight. That's going to be it, and we're going to lose to a really good team. But they stuck with it. They kept going. They kept battling, and they found a way to get the job done, sealing it off with the empty net goal at the end of the night. So it was one of the more impressive wins the Wild have had, I would say, this season, but especially as of late with what's been going on with this team. So hopefully this is the start of something good for the Minnesota Wild, because for a while, the Wild were the best team in the NHL. Then they were just hanging on to a top 3 spot. Now they're just barely hanging on to a wild card spot, and St. Louis is playing some of the best hockey they've played all season long. They are not far behind. So the Wild need to keep getting points here. They cannot fall back here in the final few games of the season, because every game matters at this point.
It really does, and they have a little bit of a buffer from falling out of the playoffs completely. But still, you're right. Yeah, I mean, St. Louis passes them. Now you're looking at the 8 seed. I know the NHL does it a little funky. It's wild card number 2 or something like that. But that would mean maybe like a Winnipeg matchup, and Winnipeg's been playing pretty well, so maybe want to avoid that. But Alexis, what do we know about the injuries? I know Kaprizov is back on the ice in terms of he's skating again. He's not on the game. He's not playing in any games yet. What do we know with Kaprizov?
Well, like you said, some of these players that have been injured and been dealing with some big injuries are finally starting to get back into a little bit more of a routine here. How far out that is from them re-entering a game is still to be determined. And the big thing here, I think, for Minnesota Wild fans to remember is just because there's a potential that we get a player like Kirill or Eriksson Ek back in the lineup and healthy before the end of the season, these guys need a little bit of time to get reaccustomed. They've been out for, Kirill's been out for months at this point. Eriksson Ek's been out for weeks. And you want them to be feeling their best by the time we get to that postseason. Or if we're fighting for our playoff lives at the end of the regular season, you need them at their best there too. So hopefully the fact that some of these players are starting to improve a little bit here, getting back on the ice and starting to work through some of these things, hopefully that means that we're getting them back sooner than later. But there's still a lot of question marks, unfortunately, of when exactly that will be and how well they're going to fit back in once they get back in the lineup. As most people know, that is half the battle, unfortunately, with injuries. Yeah, and playoffs are right around the corner. I mean, we're weeks away at this point, right? I mean, I think there's like 8 or 9 games left, something like that. Yeah, we're getting down there. Mid-April is when the playoffs start. The Wild actually finished their season. I believe it's a day or two before the NHL finishes their season. So depending on what happens with their playoff matchup, they could potentially have a few days off as a buffer in between their last regular season game and the postseason, which for a team like them could prove to be really, really beneficial if they're still trying to work through some of these injuries in those last couple of days. So we'll see what happens down the stretch. Right now, it's just a matter of getting everybody healthy and getting as many points as we can to try to hang in one of those wild card spots, and we'll see what happens in mid-April when the playoffs roll around.
It's a fun time of year, March Madness, NBA, NHL playoffs.
Yep.
Let's switch to the college game right now. I know you were locked in on the Gophers game last night. Tough loss against UMass in the first round of the NCAA. What did you see? I know Coach Bob Motzkow was fired up afterwards.
Yes, it was a game. It was when you texted me and said, "Hey, did you watch that game? Do you want to talk about it?" I said, "Yeah, I have some thoughts on this," because it was a wild ride for sure. The Gophers played really well for about 2 periods of that game. The third period got a little bit away from them, and that was due in part to just some bad luck kind of against them. They also could have just played a little bit better. They kind of were a little complacent. Once that third period rolled around, they had that multi-goal lead, and then UMass started to get back into it, and then the Gophers fell behind 4-3 late in that game. But Jimmy Snuggerud, who's been so good for the Gophers, a St. Louis Blues draft pick, got that tying goal to make it 4-4 late in that one. We go to overtime. It feels like, okay, now it's anybody's game. The Gophers were playing well. They fell behind, but they battled back, and now anybody has a chance to win. And then one of the most egregious, tripping non-calls I've ever seen led directly to the sequence that gave UMass their game-winning goal. I mean, it was a neutral zone trip that turned the puck over. They came into the zone and scored the game-winning goal. And there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions on this. And here's what I'll say, just to put it in a nutshell. It was a missed call 100%, led to the game-winning goal 100%. Time often you'll see referees swallow their whistles. It's kind of an unwritten rule of hockey, for better or for worse, where generally you won't see a penalty called, but if you do, it's typically an egregious one. And I think this penalty fell in that egregious category. I'm all for letting them play in overtime. I want it to be 5-on-5 hockey in overtime, right? You want to see the best players out on the ice, and you want it to be an even matchup through and through. But in this instance, it was egregious to me. And when it leads to a turnover like that, that's where you really can't swallow the whistle. You need to make that call there. And it just so happened to lead to that game-winning goal. So an unfortunate sequence of events for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Could they have played better down the stretch? Absolutely. You can almost always make that claim when a game slips away, that it's never just one person's fault or one moment or one instant. It's a culmination of things. It just always stinks when a goal like that happens because of the sequence that we saw unfold last night. So unfortunately, the Gophers are done, but there's still lots of fun college hockey to be played before the season is officially over and a champion is named.
I like the Gophers. I'm a St. Cloud State guy, but I like the Gophers.
I'm actually a Husky too.
Really?
Yes. So I grew up, when I went to college, Motzko was the coach at St. Cloud State.
Yep.
And then when I graduated, he left St. Cloud and went to Minnesota. But I grew up in the Twin Cities, so I grew up a Gopher fan, which is like a mortal sin at St. Cloud State to root for the Gophers. When I went to St. Cloud, I would root for the Huskies, but I always, was always rooting for the Gophers too. And then when I came, back to the Twin Cities after college, I started pulling for the Gophers more again. So I love both schools, but deep down, I am a Gopher first and foremost, even though that is not the school I went to. So I'm always rooting for both of those teams.
I'm with you. Minnesota, I'm just a fan of Minnesota sports in general, so bummed to see that the Gophers. And getting back to Motzkow, I mean, a lot of times after these games, they won't necessarily point fingers at the refs. They'll say it didn't come down to one play or something, but he was fired up over it. And it's a tournament game. This is not a best-of-7 series, as we know. In NCAA, it's one and done, so a tough loss there for the Gophers. Alexis Pearson, Minnesota Wild Radio Network, all things hockey. Anything else going on in your hockey world?
No, that's it for now. We've got the Frost wrapping up their regular season as well. They're going to hit their final international break for the World Championships here at the beginning of April. And then we come back for a few more regular season games at the end of April. And then their playoffs start in May. So it's one of the best times of year for sports. So much going on, so much fun stuff to talk about, and just looking forward to the postseasons of both women's and men's hockey coming up here.
Did I see William H. Macy was at the Frost game the other night?
He was.
Is that a true story? Shameless and Fargo's own?
Yes. Yep, he was at the Minnesota Frost game, and then he was at the Wild game last night as well. So He's done his little Minnesota hockey tour here this week, and I know a lot of fans were excited to see him rocking Frost and Wild jerseys this weekend.
Incredible. Alexis Pearson, thanks so much for joining us. Next time you'll be back on with Amy. So thanks for sticking it out with me.
This was a blast. Yes, thank you so much.
Fellow Husky, yep. All right.
Bye.
Learn all kinds of new things, you know. All right, look at that. We did it, guys. We did it. We don't tell Amy that we did a whole show without her, although she was actually a pretty big part of the show. So, thanks for sticking with us all day live. Enjoy the weekend. It's going to be a good weather weekend for the first part of it, and I'm talking about tonight. We're coming up on 70. Are we there yet? Let's look. We're close. About 68 degrees. So we're coming up on the 70s, and then tomorrow, as you heard from Cody, a big change in the forecast coming. Next week, we've got some good stuff for you. Twins home opener on Thursday. We are going to be live down at Target Field. Amy will be back. We'll all be down there. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So that's coming up on Thursday, the home opener against the Astros. That's going to do it for me. I'm all out of time. Have a great weekend, and we will see you back here on Monday.